The 2010s were a period of wildly stacked super teams, shifting power dynamics between players and ownership, some of the greatest rivalries in NBA history, and iconic moments we all go back and watch on YouTube. But at times, what's discussed the most are the moments that make fans pause and wonder, what if? What if the history books could tell a different story? What if key events unfolded just slightly differently? Fortunately for us, the 2010s delivered an abundance of alternate timelines, each with the potential to rewrite legacies and shatter what you thought you knew about the NBA during an era where it felt like no stone was unturned by the media in the 2010s. Today, we're diving into part 2 of the 6 biggest what-ifs of the 2010s. Scenarios that could have completely changed the NBA as we know it. These are not just hypotheticals, they're turning points. Moments where everything almost went in a completely different direction. Number 3. What if Kevin Durant signed with the Boston Celtics in 2016? The summer of 2016 was dominated by the Kevin Durant sweepstakes. After 9 brilliant seasons with the Oklahoma City Thunder, the recent MVP winner, who was still very much in the prime of his career, was now an unrestricted free agent. KD met with several teams who promised to be the missing link that would get the Slim Reaper to an NBA title. His ultimate decision? Joining the 73-9 Golden State Warriors. And it sent shockwaves through the league, creating arguably the most dominant team ever assembled, and it altered the competitive balance within the league for years. But another finalist in the KD sweepstakes presents a fascinating alternative: the Boston Celtics. Durant grew up idolizing Larry Bird, and he said that he loves the city of Boston and their attitude towards their city's sports. Boston, led by general manager Danny Ainge and head coach Brad Stevens, made a compelling pitch, even bringing NFL and Boston legend Tom Brady to their meeting in the Hamptons. What if that pitch had swayed Durant? What if, instead of joining the established super team in the Bay Area, KD had chosen to forge his own path in the Eastern Conference with the Celtics? Let's assume Durant signs the same 2-year deal that he did in 2016 to join Boston instead of the Warriors. He'd arrive alongside of a 30-year-old Al Horford, who also signed with the Celtics that same summer, and was coming off of back-to-back All-Star seasons for Atlanta. Suddenly, Boston has 2 stars. But unlike Golden State, Boston was not a finished product. They were an organization rich with future assets, offering Durant the chance to be the clear centerpiece and number 1 option around which a contender would quickly be built through the draft. Just weeks before Durant's decision, the Celtics had used the number 3 overall pick, acquired from the Brooklyn Nets in the infamous Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett trade, to select the promising wing Jaylen Brown. But the crown jewel of their asset chest was still to come. They held the Nets' unprotected 2017 first-round pick, which luckily ended up becoming the number 1 overall selection. Boston famously traded down to number 3 to select Jason Tatum, acquiring another future pick in the process. There is absolutely no reason KD joining would change those picks, as the Celtics stockpiled those long forwards for many seasons during the late 2010s. So Durant and Horford would be able to lead the team, while their young wings, Brown and Tatum, developed alongside of them. Picture that trajectory. Durant, one of the greatest scorers ever, mentoring and playing alongside 2 incredibly talented two-way wings in Tatum and Brown. As the young duo blossomed, the Celtics' ceiling would rise by the second. And where it gets crazy is Boston still had the assets necessary to make the trade for Kyrie Irving in the summer of 2017. Add Kyrie to the core of Durant, Horford, Tatum, and Brown, all playing under the highly respected guidance of Brad Stevens. That team possesses an incredible blend of scoring, playmaking, defense, youth, and veteran leadership. They would have instantly become favorites in the East, more than likely beating LeBron James' Cavaliers with ease if healthy. Could Durant have won championships in Boston? It seems highly probable. While the Warriors offered more immediate certainty, The Celtics' path offered longevity. Golden State's core was already established, but they also already had their own identity, compared to the Boston core, which would have been growing with KD as their leader. There's actually an argument that Durant could have won multiple titles in Boston, potentially even more than the 2 he won in Golden State, while building a legacy as a leader who brought a culture of winning back to the Celtics, instead of constantly silencing critics who questioned his move to an already dominant team. Choosing Boston over Golden State would have been a drastically different path, one that could have led to a Celtics dynasty ruling the league, and reshaping the NBA's power structure throughout the late 2010s and beyond. Number 2. What if Chris Paul became a Los Angeles Laker in 2011? In December 2011, just before the lockout-shortened NBA season was about to begin, the Lakers pulled off what looked like a blockbuster move. They were about to trade for Chris Paul, the superstar point guard who was unhappy with the direction of the New Orleans Hornets, pairing him with Kobe Bryant, and what would have been quite possibly the most elite backcourt in NBA history. It seemed like a done deal, a move poised to give Kobe Bryant another legitimate shot at championship glory. Then, the unthinkable happened. Then Commissioner David Stern, acting in his capacity as the effective owner of the league-controlled Hornets, vetoed the trade. The official reason was vague, quote, basketball reasons. But the reality was Stern faced immense pressure from several owners of small market teams, who were furious at the prospect of another super team forming in Los Angeles. Cleveland Cavaliers owner Dan Gilbert penned a particularly scathing email to Stern, questioning the fairness of the deal and furious over the competitive imbalance. Just 4 days later, a different deal was approved. Paul was sent to the other Los Angeles team, the Clippers, joining Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan to form the electrifying Lob City, an era defined by highlight dunks, but ultimately ruined by injuries, poor chemistry, and the Golden State Warriors. The Lakers were left with a mess that ruined their core. Lamar Odom was reportedly devastated by being included in the initial deal, and Pau Gasol felt undervalued. But what if Stern had not intervened? What if the original trade had gone through? Chris Paul was arguably the best point guard in the entire league, and now he was joining Kobe Bryant, who was hungry to match MJ's 6 championship rings, as they would have formed possibly the most skilled and intense two-way backcourt of all time. In the lockout-shortened 2011 to 2012 season, the Lakers, even without Paul, finished third in the West with a 41-25 record, led by Kobe Bryant and an all-star season from Andrew Bynum, who for a brief moment was seen as one of the few impact centers left in basketball. Now add a prime Chris Paul, who averaged nearly 20 points, 11 assists, and 2.5 steals over the previous 4 seasons, to Kobe Bryant and Andrew Bynum. Could that trio have overcome teams like the Thunder and Spurs in the West playoffs, and eventually the Miami Heat for a title that season? It's certainly possible. However, the ripple effect continues to extend further. The following summer, in August of 2012, the Lakers infamously traded for Dwight Howard. Assuming the Paul trade happened, the Lakers will still likely pursue Howard, as they still possessed the main piece necessary to make the deal work, Andrew Bynum. They'd send Bynum to Philadelphia and other assets to Orlando, bringing the dominant Howard to Los Angeles, but this time with one huge difference. A prime CP3 would be feeding him and Kobe the Rock instead of a 40-year-old Steve Nash. On paper, the talent is undeniable, easily enough to compete for a championship. Both Bryant and Paul later stated their belief that they would have won multiple titles together. Having said that, chemistry issues were still a possibility. Dwight Howard was recovering from back surgery and never seemed fully comfortable or healthy that season. It's possible that Kobe's well-documented intensity and Chris Paul's demanding leadership style could have clashed, or they might have even driven a more sensitive Howard away, much like what happened in reality. If the trio clicked, maybe Howard never leaves LA, and the Lakers contend for the rest of Kobe's career. If not, it could have blown up just as spectacularly as the actual Kobe-Dwight experiment did. There's also Kobe's devastating Achilles injury, but I'm prone to think that that injury never happens in the first place if Kobe isn't playing such an outlandish amount of minutes since his Lakers aren't struggling to make the playoffs. Make no mistake, the Lob City Clippers were exciting, but with that being said, the Kobe and CP3 Lakers remain as one of the greatest what-ifs of the decade. Number 1. What if Derrick Rose never got hurt? Entering the 2012 NBA playoffs, Derrick Rose wasn't just seen as a rising star, but he was the reigning MVP, the youngest player to ever win the award at just 22 years old. He was the hometown hero leading the Chicago Bulls, a team that was tied for the best record in the entire league. Rose possessed a combination of speed, power, and acrobatic explosiveness rarely seen from the point guard position. His ability to change direction at blinding speed and finish at the rim in ways that only he could made him one of the most exciting players in the league. He was the engine of a tough, defensive-minded Bulls team coached by Tom Thibodeau, and he was the hope of a city yearning for something that they had not seen since the Jordan era. Then came Game 1 of the first-round series against the 8th-seeded Philadelphia 76ers. Late in a game where the Bulls were comfortably winning, Rose elevated for a jump shot in the lane, a move he had executed to perfection thousands of times before. This time, however, when he planted his left leg, you could see a subtle twitch upon impact with the hardwood. The young phenom then crumpled to the floor, clutching his left knee. The collective gasp in the United Center was palpable. Everyone knew this wasn't going to be good. The diagnosis was a devastating torn ACL, which is basically a death sentence to a player of Rose's skill set. That single unfortunate landing didn't just end his season, but it altered the trajectory of his career and immediately shifted the balance of power in the NBA. The injury robbed Rose of the entire 2012 to 2013 season. While he eventually returned, he was never quite the same explosive athlete. That first major injury seemed to set off a domino effect of other ailments that prevented him from ever fully recapturing his MVP form. He had a career that seemed destined for the Hall of Fame that was tragically derailed in the blink of an eye. The 2010s were the golden age of point guards. Night after night, fans were treated to incredible duels, involving Steph Curry's shooting revolution, Russell Westbrook's athletic force, Chris Paul's masterful orchestration, Damian Lillard's clutch heroics, and not to mention guys like Deron Williams, John Wall, Kyrie Irving, and Derrick Rose at his peak. Imagine the battles that we never got to see consistently. Rose's blinding speed versus Westbrook's raw power. His crafty finishing ability against Curry's perimeter wizardry. Who would have been more clutch between him and Damian Lillard in the fourth quarter? The league was robbed of years of potential epic matchups featuring a prime Derrick Rose. Think about the Chicago Bulls team built around him. They were not just a one-man show. They had strong coaching under Thibodeau, a solid front office, and a core featuring players like Joakim Noah, a future Defensive Player of the Year, a two-time All-Star in Luol Deng, and eventually Jimmy Butler, who was the perfect backcourt mate for the electrifying point guard. Before Rose's injury, the Bulls were legitimate title contenders, pushing LeBron's Miami Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals in 2011. Could a healthy Derrick Rose have led a tough, defensive-minded Bulls team past the Miami Heat and the Indiana Pacers? Could he have brought a 7th championship banner to hang in the rafters of the United Center? It all felt entirely possible until he got injured. Also, consider Rose's own evolution as a player. We saw glimpses later in his career of a player who adapted his game to work past his injuries, developing a more reliable jump shot and relying less on his athleticism that got him to the league. Now imagine the same work ethic and adaptation, but built upon the foundation of a healthy body and the unshakable confidence of someone who trusts their body because they've never experienced such devastating physical setbacks. A healthy Rose continuing to refine his skills while retaining his signature explosiveness could have remained an MVP caliber player for much of the decade. The injury didn't just steal Rose's peak, it stole a perennial contender from Chicago and countless thrilling moments from basketball fans everywhere. Of all the what-ifs that burnt the landscape of the 2010s NBA, the question of Derrick Rose's career and the fortunes of the Chicago Bulls might have looked completely different without the fateful injury in 2012. So what do you guys think? What are some of your favorite what-ifs of this decade? I look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comment section below. Thanks for watching as always. Make sure to like and subscribe for more basketball content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.